Hello and welcome to Beyond Reproach. This is Tux Lerzel.
It's Stephanie Domingo.
I come to you from Detroit, Michigan, where I'm recording on land belonging to the Ottawa, Wyandot, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe nations.
And I come to you from Pistoia, Italy, where I am recording on land belonging to Proto-Italians. Yeah.
Friends, Romans, and countrymen.
What is it, like lend us your ears?
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
So for those of you who don't know, Beyond Reproach is the show about scandals and scandalousness in American politics and government. But today we're doing a mini thing. So we're just doing whatever the hell we want. And you can't stop us.
Can't stop, won't stop.
No, I'd like to see you try.
Yeah. So the scandal that I wanted to share was way too big. The scandal that I referenced last week in my full episode, it was too big, a little bit too wily. So I decided that I was going to pivot. So you asked me when I was last week, you asked about the current prime minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. And I kind of dodged your question for multiple reasons. I was already really struggling to record. We were recording at like 2 a.m. I think we finished a little bit after 3. And this was like after a full day's work. And I'm just going to keep moving. But also, I didn't really know much about her at all. I knew that she was right-leaning. I knew that she loved Trump. I knew that she was on Twitter sharing like great replacement memes. I knew she was an asshole, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of just rolled my eyes when she won 6 months ago because I have fascists in my own country to worry about. I don't have the bandwidth to care about Italy. Mm-hmm. And I kind of still feel that way, but I wanted to look into her because you asked.
Yeah.
And it is really, really important because we live in a global world, and what happens in big influential countries like the US and like Italy have repercussions. So
for sure.
So you know who actually cares a lot about Italian politics, which is kind of surprising? What types of Americans care about Italian politics?
Italians?
You
Italian Americans?
No, it's just straight white dudes. They love to point at Italy because of their fascism and their racism.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Every time I bring up that I enjoy spending time in Italy, I can just look at my watch and be like, any moment now, they're going to bring up fascism or racism. But it's
oh my God.
Worry about your own country, sir, please. That being said, Italy does have issues with racism and fascism, clearly, right?
Sure, yeah.
But I think personally that the racism and the fascism in the U.S. is more dangerous.
Just a smidge.
Smidge, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know about I don't know enough about the fascism in Italy to know one way or the other, but I could guess that Americans have really perfected racism. Because it's been such a integral part of our heritage since the very beginning.
It's a fabric, and they've made systems, racist systems and institutions, and other places haven't done that.
Yeah.
So definitely on the racism front, the U.S. is doing the most and really needs to mind its own business. But they love pointing out. I don't know. Have you heard about the bananas? Issues with bananas in Italy?
No.
Okay.
Are you taking us to the banana zone?
Yes. Oh my God. Prepare yourself for puns. No. So there was this thing that started happening around 2012 through I guess 2019. Italian football fans would throw bananas at the field when there are Black players that were dominating.
What?
So this is a thing that white, usually straight white men, actually only straight white men have brought to my attention. And I was aware of this. And Yeah, the whole thing is like black people are monkeys or like descended from
Yeah,
monkeys.
no,
And it's like, bitch, we've all
yeah, I
descended
mean,
from primates. Like, you need to sit down with the book.
uh-huh.
But like, to me, that kind of racism is so childish that
I
it's
was
like,
just gonna say it's so
right?
childish
It's
and like
so silly.
so.
It's like,
I
y'all
mean,
are
it's
silly
real
billies.
dumb. Yes, silly
They
billies.
are like, you were
Yeah,
throwing
yeah.
bananas and you like, I'm sorry, a banana is not going to hurt my feelings. Like, bananas, number one, are delicious. Like, you're giving me things for my smoothie. Like, I can't be mad. I'm not allergic. Like, I feel like that's the only way to hurt someone with a banana if they're allergic. Like,
I like that you're like, bitch, I'm American. Take several seats. You
I
don't know how
mean,
to be
yeah,
racist. You're
they don't.
child's play.
They're
Child's
doing some
play.
really like corny, silly shit with their racism because, again, they don't know.
It's fucked up. It's really, really awful and fucked up. But like,
Yeah.
it's
But
also
come on.
funny to me that like,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I'd rather be hit with a banana than a bullet. So
yes,
like,
yeah.
I'm just not gonna. But Italy has fascist leanings, like, and it has since Mussolini, and that is nothing to joke about. Like, it's actually
Sure.
very, very serious. So I decided that in this mini, I'm just going to take a look at Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. No relation to Christopher. And
I
his
was
fine
actually just going to
ass.
ask that. Good,
Yeah.
because she sucks. Or from what
She.
I
Yeah.
from what I
Oh,
hear,
she
yeah.
sucks.
So
She
I
really.
don't want her to have
Yeah.
any association with my sweet, sweet Christopher Meloni.
Oh my god, him and his cakes, his sweet, sweet
His
cakes.
cakes.
Oh. Anyways, moving on from cakes. But yeah, she's trash. She's diet fascism. And because of
Fascism light.
so political analysts all over the world are really worried about what's happening in Italy because she is flirting with fascism. There's so many different think pieces asking the question, like, is she fascist? Is she neo-fascist? Is she post-fascist? And Italy has this critical place in the West, as we learned in the last episode. A lot of eyes are on this country because it has been historically this kind of what's the word? Like, it's like a fortune teller in a way for Europe. Like, a lot of things start in Italy. So
Sure.
Meloni, she denies the fact that she is fascist. And yet she still openly praises Mussolini and uses his slogan,
Really?
God, yes, God, homeland, family. Like, she has like banners that she holds up that is his slogan.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Truly, right? Yeah. So
Holy shit.
Yeah. Her whole thing is like, I'm not fascist, but like they had some good points, and like, he fought for Italy. So she is a problem. She and her party, the Brothers of Italy, they self-identify as post-fascists. Their party won 26% of the vote, so they are the largest party nationally, and they have a coalition with other right-wing parties. So they have now considerable majorities in both houses in parliament. So they are the ones running all the shit in Italy, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And this kind of reminds me, I have a correction from last week. Italy has had a parliamentary has had a prime minister since the 1860s.
Aha. Okay. That's
You
was
like
wondering
tried to help me out, and I'm like, I don't think so. I was so hyper focused on like 1940 and like not being so overwhelmed by the scale of Italian history that I totally missed that. And they had a king, but they had prime ministers.
A prime minister as well.
Yeah.
And so was Mussolini the prime minister in those years? Okay. That makes sense.
He was made. There was a prime minister, but he was replaced.
He usurped the prime minister and inserted himself.
Basically, yeah. And apparently, like, the king was okay with it. But again, like, the king is just like, you have an army.
I mean,
like,
you said last week that he didn't really have a choice but be okay with it.
Yeah. And in most of Italy's history, it was pretty right-leaning, but there have been little shifts here and there.
Sure.
So I just wanted to mention that because in researching this scandal, I'm like, oh, my bad. Oh, God. Sorry, I was tired. And also I just missed this huge chunk of time. So how did this post-fascist party gain so much support? Like how in the world did this happen? Well, part of the explanation lies with the fact that voter turnout was really, really low. Okay. Really low. It was easily the lowest.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, it was the lowest turnout in the Republic's history, with only 64% of Italians voting.
64%.
I know,
which is
so high. Our highest is 62%, guys. Yes, 64% is the lowest. Yeah. So low voter turnout is one of the biggest predictors of right-wing victories in the modern era. Like that's kind of a telltale sign of like what will happen just looking at the numbers. Once all of the people have voted, just looking at the numbers, you can kind of tell.
I think that's true everywhere.
Yeah.
If yeah.
So the other reason for this post-fascist victory was because of the left. The left failed to unite. There was a lot of infighting. There was a lot of
you don't say.
Right? And the left had controlled Italy for a few years, but people had lost faith in them because they really hadn't changed the material condition of the working class.
You don't say.
I know. Imagine. So her party won. What's the big deal? Essentially, like some people are like, oh, that's what's the will of the people. No, it's a very big deal because Italians have chosen their first far right leader since Mussolini. Like that's massive since World War II.
And she's literally running around acting like Mussolini, or like trying to talk like Mussolini at least.
At times. It's kind of like when she's in certain spaces and she feels comfortable, she's saying something versus like when she's being interviewed by NPR or CNN, she says another thing. There's a lot of that happening. But it's very, very dangerous because Italy has always been a laboratory for what is to come in Europe. Italy had Mussolini before Hitler, and it had left-wing extremists called the Red Brigades before the Red Army faction followed in Germany. Like they had Burlusconi before we had Trump. Like they, in a way, are like the canary in a coal mine. So what do you know about Burlusconi? Do you know anything?
I don't. I know nothing.
Okay. Yeah. No, Burlusconi was kind of like a little bit after George W. Like before Trump. So back when I had a little bit more bandwidth because Trump sucked all the air out of the room and it was just, chaos. And it still feels like it's chaos every day. But he was a really powerful political player, and he was kind of like a Trump-like figure. Like he had money and he was always like surrounded by like sexy women, and there were all these allegations of misconduct, and he's just like, oh, I just say what I feel type of thing. Like I'm an outsider, but it's like, but you're stinking rich. Yeah. Like,
yeah, you're an outsider who says what they feel, but like really all your motives are just to keep rich people rich and make them even richer at the expense of the poor.
Yeah. So after years of Berlusconi in his misrule, because he got into office and surprise, surprise, just like kind of stole money, promoted his friends. Yeah. That's it.
Imagine that.
Imagine that, right? So Italy, their reaction to that was the 5-Star Movement. This was a populist-led party that was the head of this movement was a comedian who kind of was making a mockery of the political process and just like political elites. And his whole thing was like, the people need these things, but there's like, it's all bullshit, basically. Like he had all of these ideas, but there was very little thought about what the consequences of these like half-baked policies would be. But he was able to get a lot of people behind him, and they're just like, oh, he's going to change things, and he didn't. So the left kind of lost a lot of steam because people really believed that this man was going to change things because he was an outsider, et cetera, et cetera.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
And I'm Cass.
And we're the hosts of Shared History,
a comedic history podcast exploring the stories of the often overlooked or underrepresented.
The people and events your history books may have glossed over, whitewashed, man-washed, or left out completely.
From the Mayan creation myth to the Deaf President Now movement of the 1980s.
From ancient scientist Avicenna to first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, Wilma Mankiller.
If you saw it in a footnote once,
or have never heard of it,
we are here to share it with you.
Join us in a rotating guest list featuring scholars, writers, teachers, entertainers, entrepreneurs, subject matter experts, and more.
Tune in to Shared History on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, you know the drill.
And follow us at Shared Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
And as always,
share you later.
So according to many experts, this victory for the right was a long time coming. Much like Trump didn't pop out of nowhere. You know, he was on the timeline and he was an opportunist. So Trump was a con man who saw an opportunity. Like he rode the coattails of the right wing. He said all of the things. And because of that, he was able to normalize right wing ideas that had already been in the culture because of Reagan. Reagan definitely popularized the fringe, you know, gave them a voice. So the media, they often cast the former Prime Minister Burlusconi as this like small influence on Italian politics today. But he really played a really big role because he allowed the far right to gain public support because he built a coalition with them. And he bragged that he invented the center right in 1994. And he went on to say that by aligning with the League and the fascists, we legitimize and constitutionalize them.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's not something to be proud of, sir, but go off.
Yeah. I mean, he from the beginning, he was never shy when it came to anti-immigrant stances, saying just racist things. He routinely trivialized like Mussolini's crimes. It's just like, he was a leader, like he was doing what leaders do. And he appointed lifelong neo-fascists to top positions in Italy's government. So he had a lot. He's a lot of the reason why we have Italy has the prime minister that they currently have. According to an article in The Guardian, where I got a lot of my information from, Meloni's party is really not so much the heir to Mussolini, obviously. She respects the fascist party, unfortunately, but she is kind of a mix of Berlusconi's. His party was called Forza Italia. He definitely had an influence on her. But this article says that the first, like her party is basically a European copycat of the Republican Party.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. She played the long game, like many Republicans have. In 2012, she left Berlusconi's party to set up her own little party because, again, she's an outsider. Over time, she grew a following. And now that she's in power, she's not going to squander it. Like, she's been planning for this moment for a while. And it's not about bringing Italy back to fascism, because that's something that's been done before and it failed spectacularly. But her goal is to push the country to the right of center,
Sure.
which is where the US always really wanted Italy to be. So her new government did everything in its power when it came into office to assure the US that like there's going to be no issues. It's going to be a continuation of your relationship prior. She didn't want any problems. She took, even though many people in her party at the time were pro-Russia in the war, she took a very anti-Russian stance and also anti-Chinese stance because she's kind of mimicking the US in that way. She wanted their full support. At the same time, she reassured the EU and the financial markets that she was going to keep Italy's debt in check. And that kind of also pissed off her party allies because they claim to be conservative, but they love to have their little expensive pet projects.
I mean, that's how conservatives generally tend to operate, at least in the US, is like we talk about fiscal responsibility, but just blow the budget out of the water and then blame a Democrat.
Exactly. So she's just like, okay, I don't want any problems with the US or the EU. She didn't want any extra eyeballs, basically. She wanted to be, it seems like she wanted to be like left in peace to like do what she wants to do in Italy, which is what she's doing right now. She has a truly diabolical plans for Italy. She's very, very anti-LGBT. Just last month, her government voted to limit the recognition of parental rights just to the biological parent, only in the case of same-sex parents. So a non-birth mother or a non-birth father now must go through an adoption process to establish parental rights, something that is extremely costly and takes years. This happened last month.
She's fucking garbage. That's
truly,
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. And she's doing the same things that Republicans are doing when it comes to gender politics, like criminalizing children, essentially. She's very anti-immigrant. Italy is one of the main points of entry to Europe from Africa. And since the year started, there's already been 70,000 migrants that have arrived on Italy's shores. And Meloni plans to tighten the system for asylum seekers, make it really hard for people to stay here, to migrate here. She says that it threatens the security of Italians. It threatens their quality of life, et cetera, et cetera. She's very, very anti-Muslim, to the shock of no one. She's anti-poor. What?
Yeah, shocking.
So in 2019, Italy put into law like a conditional UBI, something that they call the citizen income. It only goes to people who are extremely poor. I think you have to be making like less than €750 a month to qualify for this benefit. But she wants to limit that, or she wants to abolish it. But like, it's brought more than 100 million, not 100 million. It's brought more than 100 million people out of poverty, and most Italians don't want it to end, but they want it to be reformed in a way, perhaps. But it's possible that she's going to scrap this program because, again, they have control of both houses in parliament. And she's basically Trump. She's the Republican Party post-Trump, I should say, minus the anti-choice stance. She has said on numerous, I know, which is very surprising. She said on numerous occasions that she is pro the rights of women to choose what to do with their bodies, but only time will tell if she sticks with that. I don't know. There's a lot of people in her party that are saying the opposite. And
Catholicism is so anti-choice. It's surprising in Italy to hear something like that. especially from like this hyper conservative politician.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, I am not holding my breath that she sticks to her word. It's hard for a lot of women or people with uteruses in Italy to get abortions in smaller regions as is. But I really do think her rhetoric is probably going to change. I hope it doesn't, but she's hitting all the Republican notes, and I like don't trust her on this one. I'm like, this one doesn't ring true. So basically, she is walking this center line created by Republicans. She's being really hawkish on foreign policy. She's being really like tight on economic policy. She's being very, very nostalgic and nationalistic. And she's being very openly hostile to civil liberties and just civil rights. So she's doing that thing that we're doing. And it's really upsetting.
It's not just us.
Yeah. Yeah. We've inspired
Italians,
the world.
They're just like us.
Yeah.
Yay. Oh, we're so cool at that.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
So she, in a way, is kind of providing a blueprint for the rest of Europe, if not the world, because she has come from such a right-wing background. The fact that she's now technically mainstream, like she's the one in power, she's no longer in the fringe, it is a little concerning. It's a little concerning to say the least. So yeah, the Republican Party has been big trash for decades, but Trump changed them. Like, he really did. He remade the party by being so right wing that now if you don't get down with him, you have to essentially get out of the party. And there is fear that she is going to do the same thing. Normalize extreme right positions and policies. And the world is kind of watching to see if this is going to spread. And the next test case is in Spain. I don't know if you've been following Spanish politics, but they have an election. Yeah. They have an election in December. There is a party that's called, what is it called? Vox. Vox is their far right party. And this party is gaining a lot of momentum. It is already, there is an alliance brewing, I should say. It's not, nothing has really happened, but there's like an alliance brewing between Vox and their center-right People's Party. And if they come together in December, it could be bad. It could be.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Jesus, I don't want to hear that.
I
things
know.
Are so like. Ugh.
Maybe nothing will happen, but we do need to take the threat of right-wing extremism seriously. And
yeah, I mean,
the fact that she's
the
kind
spread of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
She's normalized this like technically center right, but like she still has very, very right, far right views, but she's kind of pushing.
We're saying center right, but like the center has been pushed to the right.
Exactly. That's what it is.
These would not be centrist ideas 50 years ago. This would be extreme right. Even 30 years ago, this would have been considered extreme right.
Yeah.
But that's where we are in this country too. You just keep pushing the center. And then anyone that is left of center today would have been on the right 30 years ago, but is now, if you're where the left would have been 30 years ago, now you're considered extreme left.
Yeah.
Just because things have shifted so far to the right. But yeah, it's scary as hell. The spread of this like American version of extremism and the push of politics.
I feel like we all thought Trump was a joke, and he was in many respects, but like he was bumbling, but he was saying the words and doing the things, and he forced all of the moderates out of his party, thus reshaping the Republican Party. And that's now
kind of opening
overseas.
up the door for people to step into his place that are even scarier, that actually know what they're doing, but like are going to take their cues from how he did things.
Yes. They're going to move their arms in the way that he moved his arms.
Yeah. Study his speech patterns.
For people who don't know, Ron
movements.
DeSantis has copied Trump's gestures, and it's really, I mean, it'd be funny if it wasn't so dangerous. It's really alarming.
There's like he went to like class on how to act like Trump.
He did.
Or how to move his body.
He
like
did.
Trump. Yeah.
And I think it's sad, but I think that's effective. I think.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of Trump's supporters have jumped on to the DeSantis bandwagon.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is like he's doing the Trump, basically.
Exactly. When they should be doing the Urkel.
Thank you. They should be doing the Urkel. They should be doing the Jaleel White. Okay. I hope that was illuminating to some people.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to as much as we can manage, try to look at Europe, because in our minds they are like a socialist beacon, like they're doing all of the right things. It's like, no, but they are following our lead, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're watching us, and they have far right people living in their countries that are emboldened by what we're doing, and things are shifting because of us.
But I do think that, I hope at least, more people just come out to the polls in December in Spain, because if people come out, then there's no issue. Like, we have nothing to worry about, because there's more of us than them. But it's when people are so fed up by the status quo, and like the people who are on the left, who are really doing very little to help.
Yeah, for sure.
The situation. So yeah, we shall see. I'm still hopeful.
Keep those fingers and toes crossed. Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yes.
This has been Tux Lurzol.
Stephanie Domingo.
Over and out.
Yes.
Baby.
Baby.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Reproach. Please note we are not historians. We are just a couple of drunks who never shut up and love history. A full list of all source information can be found in the show notes on our website. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. Written reviews are especially important. If you like us, please do one of two things. Leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts, or send this episode to a friend, family member, or someone who you think would be into it. Don't forget to follow us on social media, and make sure you follow us on Instagram, because we post our cocktail recipes the Thursday before each full episode. Please drink along with us if you are not driving. We also have a shop on beyondreproachpod.com. Get your merch, brand yourselves. We also have exclusive content on Patreon, where you can directly support the production of our show.